Welcome to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we're going to talk about the top 30 running back rankings for week 4. You ready?
I'm ready.
Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom. Rolling on the field.
Fantasy Goodfellas. Before we get started on this week's rankings, can you tell me how you did on last week's rankings?
If you take out players that were hurt or didn't play, such as McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Elijah Mitchell, and Darrell Henderson, we hit on 20 of the remaining 26.
Boom, boom, boom.
That sounds great. I hope people are paying attention to these rankings and it helps them. So let's get started with the top 30 running back rankings for week 4. Richard, take it over.
And number 1, we have Derrick Henry at the New York Jets.
All right, is Henry just going to steamroll those Jets?
He is potentially 200 rushing yards. And number 2, Dalvin Cook, home against the Cleveland Browns.
Is there going to be any lingering effects from Cook's absence last week?
There could very well be. I mean, he missed 1 week, but hopefully he'll be back this week and he'll be doing what he does. And number 3, Alvin Kamara, home against the Giants.
Kamara's looking dynamic again. Do you think that bodes well for fantasy owners for the rest of the season?
It does. It does. You're going to have a lot of big Alvin Kamara games coming up. And number 4, Nick Chubb at Minnesota.
For Nick Chubb, he kind of had a subpar game. I guess that changes this week.
He wasn't bad. He just didn't get into the end zone. The only thing that holds Chubb back is that he doesn't get more touches. You know, if it wasn't for Hunt, he could be our number 1 running back. And number 5, Aaron Jones, home against Pittsburgh.
That Green Bay offense is starting to click. That must bode well for Aaron Jones.
It is, and he scored again this week, so he has 5 touchdowns. The last 2 weeks, yeah, I have to put him in my top 5. And number 6, Austin Ekeler, home against the Raiders.
I guess this is a shootout, so it's going to bode well for Ekeler, right?
Absolutely. That's the logic here. This is going to be a shootout. Herbert against Carr, and Eckler's going to catch a lot of passes. And 7, Joe Mixon, home against Jacksonville.
Well, I guess this is all about the matchup this week for him, right?
Absolutely, but he's been a little inconsistent. We'll see what happens this week. He should have plenty of opportunity and should have a big game. And number 8, Antonio Gibson at Atlanta.
We can't expect Gibson to get a 73-yard touchdown every week. How do you think he does this week?
He has a great matchup, and man, I wish he had the beard. Sky's the limit for Gibson, but Heineke, that holds him back. And number 9, Ezekiel Elliott, home against Carolina.
Well, is Zeke back or what?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to have the Zeke that we had 3-4 years ago. But Dallas is more committed to the run. Their offensive line is opening up holes. But I like Pollard better. And number 10, we have Najee Harris at Green Bay.
I guess last week was the game Najee Harris fantasy owners kind of wish they had every week, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if he's catching that many balls, especially in PPR leagues, he's going to be amazing. But the truth is that Steeler offense is lacking. Ben Roethlisberger is lacking. So I don't think Najee Harris will have games like that every week. At 11, Miles Sanders, home against Kansas City.
Okay, I have to ask, why is Miles Sanders ranked so high?
I like Miles Sanders a lot. Kansas City has a bad defense. The problem is going to be if Kansas City jumps out to a big lead early, they're going to be using Gainwell. And number 12, Chris Carson at San Francisco.
Carson's been scoring. Are you just not high on this guy?
No, I like Carson a lot. It's the San Francisco defense is stout up front. That's part of it. And then the other part of it is Russell Wilson still throws the ball. And number 13, David Montgomery, home against the Lions.
Can we count on any offensive player from Chicago this season?
Look, if there's going to be a week to count on somebody on Chicago, it's this week. They're playing the Lions. We're terrible. If Montgomery can have a big game this week, we might have to discount him the rest of the season. At 14, Jonathan Taylor at Miami.
Being big Dolphin fans and knowing their defense, do you think Taylor runs into a wall down in Miami?
Not necessarily. I think Jonathan Taylor is too big, too strong, too fast. Indianapolis just has to use him more. But it's so frustrating because Carson Wentz is bad, and that team right now is floundering. They just need to give him the ball more. Give the ball to Taylor. And number 15, Saquon Barkley at New Orleans.
Can Barkley pick it up? Does he have it in him to be better?
Absolutely. I mean, we see the improvement every week. Once he's 100% or close to it, he could arguably be our best running back. And number 16, James Robinson at Cincinnati.
Robinson's a good runner. Why can't he be consistent? What holds him back?
Well, the situation was that Urban Meyer really liked Carlos Hyde. And initially they were ignoring Robinson, but last week they got him the ball more and he produced. And I think that trend will continue. And number 17, DAndre Swift at Chicago.
Should fantasy owners start him regardless of the quarterback because he's just that good?
I think so. I think that's the situation. Swift is a good running back, and he's not going to be a great option every week because the Lions are terrible, because Goff is terrible. But most weeks, he'll be a viable running back too. And number 18, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at Philadelphia.
Okay, he's getting the yards. Can he get the touchdowns?
We said he was going to have issues with the touchdowns and short yardage because he is a smallish back, but he is the number one running back on one of the best offenses in the league. I expect him to score touchdowns at some point. And 19, Melvin Gordon, home against the Ravens.
Why can't Melvin Gordon be ranked higher?
Mainly because he's splitting carries with Javonte Williams. But Denver has shown a propensity to run, and that bodes well for him. And number 20, we have Chuba Hubbard at Dallas.
Who the hell is Chubba Wubba?
Chuba Hubbard is the guy that should take over for Christian McCaffrey while he misses these 2-3 weeks, maybe longer. And Carolina is good, both defensively, offensively. They're hitting their stride. And number 21, Kareem Hunt at Minnesota.
You always say if Hunt's not there, Chubb would be amazing. What about if Chubb's not there? How would Hunt do?
Same thing applies. Hunt will be fantastic. I mean, he had a great week last week sharing carries. He would be fantastic. I like Chubb better, but I think if it was just a Hunt show, he would do great as well. And number 22, Elijah Mitchell, home against Seattle.
Mitchell didn't play last week. Do you think he's the number one guy this week?
I think he's going to be the number one running back there in San Francisco. And number 23, Chase Edmonds at the Rams.
All right. Can we ever expect a huge game from Chase Edmonds?
Not really. He's going to be consistently in the top 30 because he's the number one running back on an amazing offense with Kyler Murray. But Chase Edmonds just is not a superstar. And number 24, Devin Singletary, home against Houston.
Why are you ranking Singletary higher than Zach Moss?
I just like Singletary better. I think, last week was an anomaly. I think against Houston, Singletary is going to have a big game. And number 25, Javonte Williams, home against Baltimore.
I always get nervous when I see two running backs from the same team in your top 30. I guess you don't have a problem with that.
No, I hate running backs that split carries, but Gordon and Williams have looked good so far. And like Chubb and Hunt, there's room for both of them in Denver. And number 26, we have Cordarrelle Patterson, home against Washington.
Patterson's looking good, right?
Atlanta seems like they need a weapon, another weapon, and he's been catching a lot of balls. So in PPR leagues especially, he's been doing excellent. But he's been consistent so far, at least the last 2 weeks. Hence, he's in our top 30. At 27, Leonard Fournette at New England.
Fournette's been doing nothing. Why is he in your top 30?
Because I expect him to score. I mean, that offense in Tampa Bay is so good. At some point, you expect Fournette to get into the end zone. I think it's going to be this week. And number 28, we have Zach Moss, home against Houston.
Moss had a better game than Singletary last week. What's the problem with Moss?
There's no problem with Moss. I prefer Singletary. And this week against the Texans, I think both running backs are going to do well. And number 29, Peyton Barber at the Chargers.
If Jacobs comes back, do you think there's still room for Barber to get a lot of carries or touches?
No. If Josh Jacobs played, the only reason I haven't ranked in my top 30 is because I don't expect Josh Jacobs to play. And number 30, Myles Gaskin, home against Indianapolis.
It just doesn't seem that they're looking Gaskin's way now that Tua is out. How do you see it?
He produced mild fantasy points in week 3. They're using him more as a third down back, but I think there's room for growth there. And I think Myles Gaskin will have a decent game in week 4.
Well, thanks for coming on here and sharing your top 30 running back rankings for week 4.
It's my pleasure. Don't forget to like, subscribe, watch our other videos. and watch them every week. We'll be here every week.
Fantasy Goodfellas.
Rolling on the field.
Fantasy Goodfellas.